Okay. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Sanibel Captiva Guide podcast. I'd like to welcome Dana Detmar, who's an environmental biologist with the City of Sanibel Natural Resources Department, and also Phyllis Gresham, who is a member of the Vegetation Committee. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Guys, ladies? Well, guys in a generic term.
I'm from New
know
Jersey,
what I meant.
so that's totally acceptable.
Oh, you're good. New Jersey.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. Anyway, Dana, please let us know. Tell us a little bit about what the environmental or the Natural Resources Department does.
Sure. I'm one of 5 members of a Natural Resources Department for the City of Sanibel. We have to be a jack of all trades. We do a little bit of everything. Probably one of our biggest responsibilities deals with environmental permitting, so doing environmental reviews related to various types of development that go on around the island, as well as beach management, wildlife management, water quality management. So we do a little bit of everything.
Wow. Okay. You sound very busy.
Yes, we are incredibly busy.
So basically, it's you're the buffer between development and keeping the island a sanctuary that it is. Is that a summary? Is that a good summary of it?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So essentially, when we get plans for development, we review them against the Land Development Code and the Sanibel Plan to make sure that the development going on is consistent with our standards on Sanibel.
Right. And if anybody doesn't know, can you give a short summary of the Sanibel Plan, what that is, when that was put in place? Or?
Sure. It's our comprehensive land use plan. It was put into place when the city incorporated in 1974, and I believe the Sanibel Plan came out in 76. But essentially, it's guiding principles for how development should occur on the island, and it provides a hierarchy of things to keep in mind for Sanibel's future, and the top priority or the top tier of the hierarchy being the protection of wildlife and wildlife habitat. And so everything that's done places that at the top of the hierarchy.
Right. What a wonderful thing that the forefathers, I guess, of the island have left for us to...
Phyllis, and tell us how you fit in with the committee here. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So the committee is probably, you could think of it as the arm of natural resources for some things in any event. And so the committee is directed to the activities they have by what Dana and the rest of the staff direct us to do.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting thing is that the Vegetation Committee was actually established prior to the Natural Resources Department.
Correct.
So the committee was actually established in 1975.
Yes.
And Charles LaBeouf wrote the ordinance that established the Vegetation Committee. So before Natural Resources, there was the Vegetation Committee. So they used to do all the things that our department does now. They still assist. Our Natural Resources was established in, I think, the early to mid 90s. But the Vegetation Committee is still very active, and they help us on a variety of initiatives.
Right. And Charles LaBeouf comes up, and so, I mean, he has woven his way through the island. And
Well, he's a very important person.
He is. He was one of the first city council. He was.
Started and also at the Ding Darling National Wildlife Center.
Right. He was one of the first rangers there. He started the sea turtle program. I mean,
Correct.
What a gem he is to the islands, for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. And then, so what have you got? What have you got? Any big projects coming up? Is there?
Well, actually, we do have a project that we're meeting about tomorrow. We're going to be looking at the City Hall property, because when you look at that, I was unable to find any other communities where the entire surroundings, all the plantings around City Hall are native. There's no irrigation. And we do, of course, walks there for newcomers and anyone else.
Tell us a little bit about the walks that you offer.
The walks are wonderful because we give people a packet that includes all kinds of information about how they can make their yard, and I'm losing my earphones, how they can make their yards habitat friendly, and perhaps bring butterflies, all kinds of things that they might need to know. And then we walk around and show them the plants at City Hall, because these are plants that have thrived without any, once they've been planted and are established, they're there. And so they can see how things grow and how they can integrate ground covers, shrubs, medium-sized trees, larger trees into their own environments.
Yeah.
And this is obviously not just it's just not a vanity project. Back from 2004 and many times before that, there was big problems with invasive species on the island. So tell us a little bit about that. Why is it important that that we do use native species and we do use?
Well, the problem is that invasives grow much more rapidly sometimes than native plants. And so the quicker you can get them under control, and that's one of the jobs of the natural resources, to do a lot of identifying of those. But we have Invasive Species Week coming up, and we will have a booth at the farmers market showing people with some super graphics and examples that they can actually pick up. Well, do I have air potato in my yard? Oh my goodness, there it is.
Okay. And what would you do if you have it? You just
you need to remove it. Okay. It's just like Brazilian pepper,
right? Which I was going to mention, the Brazilian pepper. I know that was a huge buzzword.
Well, the city, I can't remember the year that they started it, but the city Department of Natural Resources had a planned removal of, they moved up the island with a planned removal for Brazilian pepper.
Right, the pepper busters.
That's correct. And so we identified it by going around and driving up and down streets that I've never been on before to look at and see if we saw it we didn't go onto people's properties, but and then those people were informed and
asked to remove.
Went from there.
So for those of you that don't know, the Brazilian pepper was a problem because it used to smother other species and basically take over the light source and food source.
Well, is that right, Dana?
Yeah,
you can probably speak to that more.
Right. So it goes unchecked because it's an exotic plant, not native to our area. It goes unchecked. So it doesn't have the same predators and pressures that it does in its native habitat. So interestingly, in Brazil, where it's native, there is a bee that's native to Brazil that eats the flowers of the Brazilian pepper, so it makes it less prolific, so it can't spread.
Wow, that's interesting.
But here we don't have that bee that does that job in Florida. And so it's able to just grow. It's very good. It likes transitional areas. So it likes the areas between highland and lowland, which that's all over Sanibel. Yeah. So this is kind of ideal habitat for it.
Is it a tree that gets big? How large?
It can. Yes. I mean, they can grow probably upwards of 40 or 50 feet. Wow. But they do like to sprawl more. So they kind of go wider than they grow taller. But yeah, so it's become a problem, but we do have, as Phyllis was mentioning, a mandatory eradication program. So we still have it here on Sanibel, but it's not as big of a problem as it is some of the places you see it in Lee County.
So if you could tell somebody, how would you identify the Brazilian pepper? Is there an easy way?
Well, so there are male and female plants of Brazilian peppers.
I didn't know that.
So the female plants are the ones that produce a berry. So a lot of times we'll work with people and they say, yep, I removed all the Brazilian pepper in my yard. And we'll go and there's still 20 Brazilian pepper in their yard. And they're like, well, that one didn't have the berries on it. And so you have to explain to them that that's the male plant. It only flowers. But it's most commonly known by these really bright red berries.
How big are the berries?
They're very small, smaller than a pea. But that's one of the reasons why they got brought here, was because of these nice showy berries. It looks like a holly
Have you
tree.
traced back where it came from? How it actually arrived here?
Yes, I believe it came. There was a doctor in Punta Gorda that brought it in because he thought he liked how it looked and planted it. And there used to be a landscape architect that worked on Sanibel that would plant it too because he thought it was so beautiful. But it's like a dark green plant. It's an evergreen, so it has leaves on it year round. A single leaf it contains multiple leaflets. So it has one terminal leaf, and then it has several leaves that are opposite of each other. Okay. But another thing that sets it apart is if you take it and you kind of break it up in your hands, it smells like turpentine. So it has a very distinct smell to it.
Well,
and once you see it once, it's actually pretty easy to recognize.
Yeah.
Maybe Max can put a picture up there of it. And then the other major species that obviously what I was referring to in 2004 during Hurricane Charlie, we had the Australian pines, which were also brought in because they were quick growing.
I think a lot of invasive plants were brought here because people thought, oh my goodness, they'll do really well here. And the problem with the Brazilian pepper too was we would get very often migrating robins in the spring. They absolutely adore those berries. So they would come and they would eat them, and then they would fly up and down the island
and deposit them in other places.
They would indeed. So it helped it to spread.
Do we know how much is left, percentage-wise, or I'm sure it's so hard to tell.
Not really sure, but I would say a safe guess would be less than 20% of the island is covered by it.
Right.
Mostly now, with all of our big tracts of land are all conservation lands that are owned by different conservation organizations. And all of them have their own programs for invasive removal. We do too. So on city lands, we have a contractor that goes through all of our city lands once a year and removes all the invasive exotics. And so all the other properties do that too. So a lot of the pepper remaining is on single family residences and just very small amounts.
All right, so everybody needs to do their job out there, help out.
So when you have something like the Invasive Species Week, and with all those examples, people that come by can see that and know.
That's helpful to have a visual.
Exactly.
And so we're recording this, February 17th, I guess. When is Invasive Species Week?
It's the first week of March.
First week in March.
Oh, okay, perfect.
But the booth is going to be the Sunday before.
Yeah, which I believe is the 27th.
Okay,
at the Sunday, February 27th.
Right, at the Sanibel Farmers Market, which is a must-go for everybody if you're here, for sure.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting to see what you guys are doing with the city as far as, every new building that goes up, there's also a required landscaping program that has to include native species, which is really cool.
I was thinking about that because some of that Brazilian pepper is then discovered on properties that are going to be developed.
Right.
Because the invasives need to be removed.
Right. And what is the rule for the people that are building, Dana?
Yeah, sure. So for all new development, we have 8 listed invasive species that would have to be removed from the property.
Can you name them off?
Sure.
I bet you can.
Yep. Brazilian pepper, melaleuca, Java plum, air potato, lead tree, ear leaf acacia, mother-in-law's tongue.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't know about that. I had that in a pot at home. I think that was 7.
I'm missing one.
Oh,
dear. That's embarrassing.
Australian pine?
Australian pine is not on the list.
Why is that?
Well, as you already alluded to, they were, after Hurricane Charlie, they were a major problem. So many of them went down. It blocked access to roads for weeks, and it took a lot of time and effort to remove them. Mm-hmm. And so after that, there was some discussion as to whether or not they should be included on that list of the required species to be removed. but there was a section of the Sanibel community that was very passionate about Australian
I didn't know
pines
those weren't.
because it reminded them of old Sanibel
Yes.
and the drive down Periwinkle Way,
Which used to be
being
canopied.
by the Australian pines.
Right.
And so city council decided to just leave them off the list.
Okay.
But that people are certainly encouraged to remove them
Right.
from their properties.
And the problem with those, beautiful as they are, stunning trees, but they're very shallow rooted, so they're not hurricane proof.
Right, which is, so for people that have them on their properties, it can raise some safety concerns
Right.
because they're not really built to withstand very strong winds.
Yeah, I actually came across a document, I think at the library, it's called the Friends of the Pines. And have you seen that?
Yes,
I'm sure.
and those people are passionate about
their
them.
pines.
But the fact remains, if you look along, drive down Periwinkle now, there is a canopy.
Yes, there is. That's true.
It's a diverse canopy, which is the best possible thing in the world for wildlife habitat. And how nice to look at it, because Australian pines completely eradicate everything. Nothing grows under them.
Gotcha.
And in their native country, they grow differently, but here they also absorb water, and that was one of the
I think that was
problems during Charlie.
Right.
That when they went down across the road, you couldn't use a regular chainsaw.
Really?
Just broke the blades, and so they spent twice the amount of time, or maybe 3 times, clearing the road.
Yeah.
And so I believe, Dana, you can't have them. They were removed by the city from anything that would affect infrastructure.
Yeah, so we do have one regulation that if for some reason an Australian pine were to cause some sort of concern or safety hazard to public infrastructure, the city can require it to be removed. But it has to be a certain set of conditions that would require the removal of it. But as Phyllis mentioned, we do have a nice canopy over, or we're starting to get that canopy back over Periwinkle Way. And that was a community initiative after Hurricane Charlie, was to get that picturesque canopy reestablished. And in this time, rather than doing with it an invasive species, we created a planting plan of native vegetation to where you have these different levels of ground covers, shrubs, and trees that have a more intricate root system that helps to hold it in place better. So if you noticed after Irma, we didn't quite have as many trees across the roadway.
Right. Yeah.
And so hopefully that those nice established buffers that we've created will have better integrity than the Australian pines that line the road.
So I think going back, we didn't actually mention, when are the tours for the Vegetation Committee? When do you offer those?
The first Wednesday and the fourth Saturday.
And that's...
Yep, at 10 a.m. at City Hall.
And do they just show up for that? Do you have to register?
Nope. Just show up.
All right, just show up. And how long does the tour last?
Depends on the group of people.
Right.
I think that I always ask people, why did you come? And what would you like to learn here? And so then people kind of have some ideas and they go from there.
Gotcha.
And then I might be able to structure it a little more carefully to that.
And would you suggest, obviously if it's for people that live on the island, but what about visitors? Would you suggest they come too?
I think occasionally visitors will come, because it's interesting with the invasive species at the tent. People will come and they'll say, we don't have that, but we do have things like Russian olive, which is a huge problem up in the northeast. And so everyone, it's interesting, has to deal with things like invasive species and water. Everyone has a water issue, it just doesn't matter where you live, so that people can definitely relate to that.
Right.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I really like that we have these walks, because I've been to a number of properties on Sanibel where I've met with property owners on different topics, but they always seem to sneak into the conversation, Well, do you see all these plants I planted here? I learned about them on the vegetation walk with the city's vegetation committee. So we have a lot of residents that come and find it very interesting, and then end up planting things in their yards based off of what they learned at the walk.
And then they can buy plants at the Bailey Homestead, correct? Isn't there? The SCCF has the native planting.
Yep, they have a native plant nursery there.
Yeah. Awesome. And how about tell us about the vegetation committee? Are you looking for members? Can people come
I think it's always good to have members, because we do a lot of things, as we talked before. We do inspections for the city. We haven't done so many of those during the virus, but I'm sure we'll get back to that. The committee writes puts articles in the paper. And you can find out what we've written about by going to the city's website, and then going from there to natural resources, and then going there to lists of plants with photographs and of plants flowering and fruiting.
Yeah, you have a great resource on there. I looked at
there's a lot on there.
Is that the mysanibel.com?
Yeah,
is where you start.
And then you can also pull up all of our articles, because over the years we have written probably, I don't remember how many.
I think we're on 29 or 30.
Yeah,
exactly.
I looked at them. Yeah.
And we sometimes reissue those, because some things are important.
Right. But they're all in PDF form, so you can look at them on the website, or you can download them and have them here.
So, Phyllis, what was your background? How did you end up getting into?
Well, my family came here at the end of 1969, and I tell people on the walks sometimes that she probably, and I think this is true of many people, they moved to Florida. They thought, well, we'll bring our plants with us and we'll just put them in the ground. And I am inclined to think that my mother single-handedly probably spread mother-in-law's tongue through the east end of the island.
Oh, no.
I confess to it.
And where is it? Where were they
You're
from?
righting your wrongs.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I have none in my yard for sure.
Right.
But
where are they from? Where were you from?
They were from Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. And what brought them to Sanibel? Did they know somebody?
Well,
or what was the connection?
My husband and I came with the children, and said to them, my father was thinking of retiring, and we said, oh, you really ought to look at the west coast of Florida. You ought to go to Sanibel. So they did. They came here, they had a vacation, and they bought a house while they were here.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people have that story. It definitely gets to you.
And it was nice because it was before the city incorporated. My father tested water up at SCCF in a little lab for them before we had island water and the reverse osmosis, and he did some things with incorporation of the city.
Oh, so did you actually, were you pre or post ferry? You were right around
no, long after the ferry.
Long after. What, 64?
64.
64.
Oh, I thought it was 68. Okay.
No, I haven't. Betty Anold is a neighbor of mine, and she was definitely here.
Yeah, we had Betty on the program talking about the library, but she's so interesting too.
So, Dana, what's your background? Are you from the area? Or are you?
No, I'm from New Jersey originally, but I have always had an enthusiasm for nature and the natural world. My family were avid outdoors people. I came down here to go to grad school at FGCU and was fortunate enough to get hired by the city shortly after finishing the master's program.
Wow.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very
awesome.
cool. Very cool. So for those that, for visitors that are coming to the island, there's no right or wrong answer. What would you recommend they do? What's your favourite thing to do on the island? Dana, go first.
For me, it's to visit the nature trails. Sanibel is just so unique. With our shared use path and the connectivity between the parks. I mean, you can take your bike or hike, you can start on the shared use path, cut into a park, follow the trail down, get back onto the shared use path, go into a different park. And so it's really cool that you can break up your tour of the island from being on the shared use path and seeing the shops and then dipping into seeing the natural environment on Sanibel.
Which we were talking about one path that a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of behind the Sanibel Community House and the playground there. You can...
Yep, that's Community Park. So you can go from Periwinkle Way to Tarpon Bay through that park. But that's it's a park that not many people know. It's very beautiful. It was a restoration project done by the city. It was previously a nursery that we purchased. Part of it's city land, part of it's SCCF land. And it's been restored to a park there, and that's where we've established our Arbor Day Grove.
Right. So talk about the Arbor Day, what you do for Arbor Day, 'cause that's so
Sure. So we celebrate Arbor Day each year in January. So it's the third January, or the third Friday in January of every year. And so we plant a tree. We typically dedicate it to either a historical or prominent figure in the community or an organization. This past year, the tree was dedicated to the former city manager, Judy Zamamra. The year previous, it was D. Siraj Century. So we plant a tree every year, and we do that as part of the Tree City program. So we are designated as a tree city by the Arbor Day Foundation, and you have to meet 4 criteria to become a tree city. One is to celebrate Arbor Day. One is to have a tree board, which is essentially our vegetation committee, to have a tree protection ordinance, which we do, and then we have to spend at least $2 per capita on urban forestry, which we do on the island.
So check. You got it. So that the Grove is back that trail, correct?
Yeah, so it's part of it. So our Arbor Days are spread out a little bit. So initially it was on the school property. The school did a redevelopment at one point to where some of those Arbor Day trees had to be relocated to the Pick Preserve.
Which is right across from
Sanibel
Sanibel School.
At SCCF. So the trees are at the Pick Preserve, on the Sanibel School property, and at Community Park.
Okay. So, and you said they're not labeled in any way. So can you identify where the Grove is quite easily if anybody wanted to see, or is it kind of, you just want to leave it natural, I guess?
Yeah, so we try to leave it natural, but there is a certain area. So when you enter Community Park from the playground side, you go down the trail and it splits. So if you go to the left, about 100 feet down on the left-hand side, there's a cleared area where you can start to see some trees getting filled in there.
Gotcha. And you do have a list of that on your website,
we
too,
do.
of all the trees that have been, and who are they dedicated to?
Yeah, we maintain a list of all of the trees, where they've been planted and who they were dedicated to, and then the species of trees.
Right.
Is this a time I could say that I don't think very many people stop and think about it, but for a city the size of Sanibel, we are so extraordinarily fortunate to have a Department of Natural Resources with people like Dana. I mean, it's just people are amazed to find that out.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. When you look at the surrounding barrier islands and the difference it makes, it's incredible.
Or just pick any city.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. But we are just, this is such an asset for us that as part of maintaining the things like the Sanibel plan.
Yeah.
So Phyllis, how about you? What's your favourite? What would you recommend somebody do if they were
I
obviously take the tour with you, but
I personally think that one of the greatest things the city has done in the last few years is to install the Jordan Marsh. Which is on Casabel, and it enables the water from the Sanibel Slough to be filtered out in a filter marsh, which it is just lovely in there. And it you can access it from the bike path, or you can walk back from Periwinkle.
There's no parking.
But there's no parking.
That's the
You're
reason
right.
a lot of people don't.
But the way it's grown, and then that's all run mainly by solar power, and it that water comes out, has a certain amount of time to stay in the marsh, which is the purpose of that kind of a thing. And then it gets put back into the slough, which then goes back out into Pine Island Sound, a much cleaner project. And the very fact that we can show people how that happens, I think that's just remarkable.
Cool. All right. That's, no one has ever mentioned that on our. We ask everybody, so that's.
Well, I was
one.
just telling somebody about it. They said, "Well, what would you say that would be a really good thing the city has done?" And I'm thinking, well, it's not hard to come up with the Jordan Marsh.
Right.
The Jordan Marsh is exactly where? Is it the one right behind that building here?
Oh, right. If you go down Cassia it's just right on the left-hand side.
Yes,
So that's right
before
behind
you
that
get to
building.
the
So,
bank.
And
yeah,
is
we
it-
actually have some. We obviously have some footage of when it was first going in there.
Right.
Yeah,
And was it
incredible.
dedicated to the Jordan family as well? Named after, I
Yes.
guess, because
Yes.
of one of the black families on the island.
Yep.
So,
Perfect.
which is-
Awesome. So, Max, have you got anything for us?
Yeah, I actually just wrote another question for you guys.
So I'm going to hand
Lucky
these
you.
out.
Oh
These
dear.
are our paddles. It's getting serious now.
All right.
Oh, and we put up our paddle if we know the answer.
No, you're going to write down the answer.
Even if you don't know the
Oh,
answer, you have to write
goodness.
something.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Are you awake, Max?
Sorry.
Plants and 20-year-olds.
Right.
Exciting, I'm sure.
Which Max just told me a term that the kids say to each other. Max, tell everybody what that is about touching grass.
Oh, it's a saying on the internet when people are putting too much time into their comments on Facebook and the social media world. The common comeback is touch grass in reference to get outside of your house and stop looking at social media and shut up.
Yeah.
Go
Actually,
do something.
Go and get
do
involved in
something.
nature.
Yeah.
Right.
Go do
You know,
something other
we
than
don't-
complaining on social media.
We don't like grass here, you know that.
No. That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
So, a good saying, I think,
That's
for
right.
everybody. Get outdoors.
Yeah.
All right, question 1. I'm going to name 2 plants that we see on Sanibel. One of which is edible, the other poisonous. Tell me which one you would eat.
All right.
The first one is the invasive mother-in-law's tongue. And the second is the native shepherd's needle. Which one are you going to eat?
They both sound horrible.
They do.
One is poisonous and one is completely edible,
Oh. All right.
according
okay.
to my surface level research skills on the internet.
What are you writing down?
Oh, no.
Hey, no cheating!
I'm not eating either one.
You could put that neither, I guess.
You could put neither.
Neither.
Max has been known to
To put a trick question?
trick question us.
No, not I.
Is shepherd's needle also referred to as Biden's? Do you know?
We don't get political on here.
That's what I was wondering too.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
I don't eat things I don't know what they are.
I do
good
not.
advice.
Hold on. I can look it up. I got this.
He's got it.
I got this.
Go on.
Go on.
Shepherd's needle. I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
Doesn't
Meg.
change my answer.
Okay. So,
All right,
you
go
want me to
ahead.
go?
Dad, you want to start?
Shepherd's needle.
I went for the needle.
The needle?
Is that you can
Phyllis?
eat?
I went
Yeah,
with
that you can
neither.
eat.
Yeah.
Neither?
I
His
went,
mother-in-law's tongue is poisonous.
yeah. I went with shepherd's needle.
Shepherd's needle is the edible one.
Yeah.
Mother-in-law's
Excellent.
tongue
Excellent.
is not. It is poisonous and invasive.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Wow, a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a very bad
Yeah.
thing. All
I,
right,
go.
now we're widening the scope here.
which I feel bad. I actually have that in a pot on my
Burn it. Burn
my
it.
pool deck. I'm sorry to say.
As long as
Well,
it stays in the
see,
pot.
but that's the thing with non-natives. I mean, I have some in pots as well.
Oh, you do? Okay, so I don't feel so bad.
In pots,
Pots are okay.
but they're in pots. They're
Okay.
not spreading.
Right. Okay. So I'm okay with the pot.
There you go.
All right.
So, Phyllis has pot.
What?
Pots.
Pots.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
pots.
All right. So we're widening the scope to all of Florida now. The largest tree in Florida, native tree, I should say, is a bald cypress located in Hamilton County. Hamilton County is in the north of Florida. I had to look it up. This tree measures 557 inches in circumference.
Wow.
And carries a crown spread of 49 feet. How tall is it?
Oh, jeez.
No idea.
No, we don't
Closest
either.
answer wins.
Okay.
It's very tall.
It's the tallest native tree in Florida. I will tell you, it is not a sequoia.
Oh, are we writing?
Yeah, you got it right.
Oh, yeah.
Just write your guess
There's
in
no-
feet
Okay.
Tall.
Are you gonna
or
put-
meters. I can do the
Are you gonna put
conversion.
inches too?
I'm going to say it's good for kites.
Okay,
right.
I've got an answer.
Dana, you go.
I said 80.
80.
Phyllis, what did you put?
I put very tall, and it's good for swallowtail kites.
Totally irrelevant, but an excellent answer.
Not a point, but a great answer.
I was close with Dana. I put 81.
81.
Defeat. I
Yeah,
did
you
the
guys
one
are splitting
over.
the difference.
Yeah. All right.
With no wind, because it's important, it's 129 feet and 7 inches.
With no wind.
Wow.
No wind, yeah. With wind, it's
little
129 feet and 3 inches.
Okay. Well, you're wrong.
Okay, excellent.
Mom, you took it with 84 being the answer.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You guys were surprisingly close. I'm surprised you were both that close.
That's what the Price is Right tactic.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I did not look at your answer.
Don't believe her, don't believe her, don't believe her.
All right,
I
let's
thought
see.
my answer was creative.
That was
It was very creative.
Oh, Phyllis, make no bones about it. You're going to win the creativity award.
I will give
Exactly.
a tenth of a point for creativity for you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
All right.
That didn't get me much.
Do we know the
What
score
are the
right now?
scores? I think I have
You have 2.
Dana, you
Yeah,
have
you
one.
have 2.
I have one.
One.
Yeah.
I'm winning.
Winning.
Yay.
Boo. All right. In 10 seconds, get your pens ready.
Oh,
You have
geez.
10 seconds
This is stressful.
to name a native plant of Sanibel Island that I haven't included in any of the trivia questions yet. 1, 1,000. 2, 1,000.
jeez.
3, 1,000. 4, 5, 6,
No, I know that's not it.
7, 8, 9.
Well, Phyllis, you can write
10.
a story if you like.
What's that?
You can write a story if you like.
Okay.
Mom,
Thank
you
you.
absolutely will not get a point. You definitely finished that word after I finished counting.
Oh,
What
you're
did you write
supposed to
down?
write a lot?
I put sea grape.
Sea grape?
Yeah.
Phyllis, what did you have?
I'm Kunti.
Kunti? Okay.
I put cocoa plum.
Okay, well, you didn't get it in time, so I won't give you a point.
I did wild
Dana.
coffee, live oak, beauty berry, and
nice.
slash
Dang.
chocolate.
Over a
You get the prize.
As
All right,
many as
yeah.
possible.
Point for Dana.
Is that 4
is the
points
point.
because I got 4 plants? or-
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
okay.
one point because you got the most. I'll give it to you.
All
So we
right.
have a tie at the top.
Okay.
What did I get, Max? Was sea grape one of them?
Do,
I don't know. I didn't look up the plants.
Dana, do you know?
I was
the secret?
trusting them
Yes,
to know.
yes,
Did
yes.
I get-
Everybody
I did get
put
one,
native
Max.
Oh, you
plants.
did it. Okay.
I must have gotten something.
Yeah, I
I
think
never
you did.
mentioned
Participation award,
Kunti.
Phyllis.
Actually, yeah, no, everyone gets a point by Mom because everyone had it in time.
Apparently I didn't
excellent.
write it quick enough.
Oh,
Okay,
So
so
what's
that
the
still
scores
leaves
now?
us with a tie at the top with 2, right?
Yep.
Dad, you
Yep.
have 2 now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, it's 2
Till-
for everyone,
I think-
right?
Except for Phyllis.
Phyllis has
No, Phyllis has
one
2.
and one.
Oh, she did?
She has a
She
10th
gets
of a
10
point.
too.
She has 2
Oh,
and a
she
10th.
Phyllis
Besides
is
that,
now in the
you-
lead with 2.1 points. So it comes down to this. We're widening the scope even farther.
Oh, wow.
oh dear.
The pond apple is a native fruit tree on Sanibel, correct?
On the
Correct.
Okay, I was right. I'm scared about the native
Right.
word. I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. The apples, however, are scarcely desirable in taste.
Right.
However, I think I said however twice. However, they are used in fresh fruit drinks in this archipelagic country in the Indian Sea. Beginning with M. Archipelagic is in reference to
Yeah, what
it
does that
being a
mean?
collection of
Collection of
islands.
islands,
Yes.
right.
Oh,
Oh, I
okay.
got it. I got it. I got it.
Beginning with M. They use it in their fresh fruit drinks, which is weird because everyone else says that they're really bitter,
They're not
And
so
not good.
bitter. They're mushy.
mushy.
Yeah,
Some
very
people-
mushy.
They use them in jellies.
Yeah, they have like a turpentine smell
Yes.
too. You have to get them
Right.
at just the right
Really?
time.
The
But
only
guys
people
they're
actually
part of the Nona family.
Have you actually tasted it?
I have to.
You have, Phyllis?
Yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's part of the genus Annona, and there's some fruit trees like the custard apple and the sugar apple that are
Those
also
sound
in
good.
the family that are very tasty,
Yeah, they sound good.
but they are mushy.
Okay,
Mushy.
so we don't
It's
recommend
interesting that the pond apple can be here and also in the Indian Ocean. That's crazy.
Fascinating.
That's crazy, right? All right, Dad,
right.
you seem to be certain that you've got it.
I changed my mind though.
Okay.
I'm going for Maldives, but I
The
put
Maldives?
Madagascar originally, but I don't think
Yeah.
Madagascar is a chain of islands.
I thought about Madagascar,
I
but
put Micronesia. I know that's not right.
I also put the Maldives.
I put
You put
M.
M? David
start
wins with the Maldives.
Yeah,
Maldives
right.
is
I got
the
Maldives
correct.
too.
No, you put Madagascar
said-
and the Maldives.
No, I did say Maldives, didn't I?
You wrote
You wrote
Madagascar.
them
did.
both.
Thank you. I said I put it first, and then
You
I put
did say
Maldives. Well, I'm going to cry
Hey,
now.
we give the bell to Dana.
But Dana, we'll give it to you, Dana. Robbed again, but never mind.
See, I don't compete with Dana.
No.
You
Apparently
know,
none of us do.
no.
No chance.
What a shocker. I'm not going to win a quiz on plant life, but there we go. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining
You're
us.
welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Just give us is there a website or anything or contact information to find out about the
My
organisation?
Sanibel.
Absolutely. mysanibel.com.
Couldn't be
Find it
any
on
easier
there.
than that.
Yep,
Big.
and you can go to the Natural Resources
Resources.
Department. There's a variety of information on different topics from water quality to red tide to native plants to the Vegetation Committee. So
Yeah.
there's lots of
Everything.
good information there.
Go take Phyllis's tour
Yep.
at the City Hall.
Excellent. Awesome, guys. Thanks very much for joining us. Come back and see us on the next one. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content and be notified of future upcoming episodes. Have a great one, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and a quick shout out to our supporters. Without our supporters, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Bailey's General Store, Doc Ford's Rum Bar and Grill, Spoondrift Island Bowls, 3 Crafty Ladies, GatorBites Tail and Ale, Priscilla's of Sanibel, Coco y Cabana, Suncatchers Dream, and Sanibel Carts. And don't forget to reach out to Captains for Cleveland